Okay. We are live.
Excellent.
Yay. Okay. So, first question. Ask your team to understand some of the background on the sexual harassment before you start the case. On sexual harassment law before we start talking about the case.
Okay.
I know for me, the one thing that most when I was reading this was sexual harassment doesn't have to be it's just a discrimination against one person because of sex.
Right. It can be just a gender thing, not a
Yeah. Not a hey baby, how you doing?
Right.
Because I mean that's like every sexual harassment class I've ever attended has been always the don't touch them, don't it's the obvious. It's
the
not
inappropriate advances
Yeah.
and comments and that's usually pretty much I think how a lot of companies do it.
So I think that's the biggest one.
Yeah.
How people are interacting with it.
What I thought was really horrific, actually, was that it used to be that advances, that just because someone makes advances toward another, that this Arizona case, so that just because the employees quit rather than endure this guy's advances, he had not engaged in sex discrimination, but had merely expressed a personal urge. Like, really? Come on. That's not okay.
Yeah. I also like the wording of how it changed from a person's perspective or something like that to a woman's perspective.
Oh, yeah.
I read that and I just started laughing because it was like, just wait, that term in and of itself could be considered sexual harassment.
Well, and now they're saying that that you have to look at it from the standard of a reasonable person with the same characteristics as the plaintiff, because it's not just women who are harassed, it can be men. Yeah. So you have to look at who is making the complaint and whether a reasonable person with their same background and gender and whatnot, whether they would find it offensive or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting about the EEOC, though, is they put the guidelines out about sexual harassment. It wasn't even that people were recognizing Title VII as, is it Title VII, right? Yeah, Title VII as, the law that prevented sexual harassment. It was more the EEOC had to step in and say, this is not okay, this is why, here's the guidance, and ultimately the courts started having to rely on that because Title VII really wasn't that clear. But what's interesting about that is there's a lot of litigation out there. I work in risk management, so I get these flashes from the EEOC and all the updates and whatnot about a variety of issues. And what's interesting is that the courts are now going against the EEOC's guidance on other things like the ADA, because the EEOC thinks that extending someone's leave is a good accommodation. It's a reasonable accommodation under the ADA. But there have been a couple court cases that came out recently that said the ADA isn't a leave law, it's not reasonable. So now you've got conflicting things from the EEOC, from the court saying two different things, and what do you do with that?
Yeah, and I get that. I mean, it was the EEOC it allowed for the framework to be able to be used so that way companies could go, okay, here's what the feds are going to come in and look at. So let's structure ourselves around this. Not necessarily what the courts are going to say, because when you go to a jury trial, you play to the jury, not to the court.
Yeah, this is true. But the judge has to decide. I mean, first the judge has to decide whether there's enough evidence to actually send it to a jury. There's all the pre-trial stuff that goes on. So.
And that was the other thing I thought was important, was just like how much, and I kind of get it. You do need a lot of evidence to support the sexual harassment, because it is a lot of he said, she said kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. All right, what's next?
What is sexual harassment? Anything that sounds like a whole lot of fun.
It's unwanted advances or a series of kind of inappropriate and potentially hostile actions against someone else. Yeah.
That affects their work.
Yeah.
All right, I'm trying to take notes on this so that way I can make sure I get this turned in. Because it's already driving me nuts seeing the 2 weeks that I didn't do the lead. They're still not cleared.
Oh, yeah.
On the checkbox, and
that's affecting my OCD a little bit as well.
Oh my gosh. Especially for me, because like my head is still trying to get readjusted to life now. And it's like, wait, why isn't this done? Oh, wait, no, it wasn't my job to do. She said it's not counting against us.
Right.
Okay. Now we're actually getting into the story.
Yeah.
Based on Martinez's story, does her situation constitute sexual harassment? Asked to explain. I think this is one of the most clear-cut sexual harassment. This is almost a quid pro quo, or
well, it's more.
No, not quid pro quo. But what is that?
The hostile work environment.
Yes, that one.
I mean, it's pretty obvious because she talks about how many comments he's made and how it's escalating, and then he touched her, and then it's just super obvious that he's making her very uncomfortable and being inappropriate.
All right. Is it quid pro quo or hostile work environment? There's enough information here to say it's
I think it's more hostile work environment, although, she is obviously afraid for her job, but
yeah.
He hasn't come right out and said, you have to do this or I'm going to fire you, which is more the quid pro quo thing. just because she's afraid for her job doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a hostile work environment.
I really wish I could type faster.
Well, I can see the questions too.
Well, so I went through and I put it in grabbed a Google Doc again, and so I was like, it's easier for me to do it in there and be able to look back and forth and type my answers underneath so I know what I need to phrase and where. From the note on sexual harassment, do you think DeCosta got accurate advice when he called the counsel's office?
Well, yes. And this is just, I do think he got accurate advice, but I also ultimately think it kind of depends on what your company's policy is, because as sort of a person, as the person who overheard something happening, he isn't necessarily going to be the one that goes all the way to the EEOC to make the complaint. I think it has to be Julia, the female involved. I think she has to make the complaint. But I know from the policy at my company, whenever we overhear or have someone tell us about an incident, there's a hotline that we have to call to report it so that they can, initiate the investigation and make a determination as to what's going on. But I mean, if that's what the company's policy is, then yes, we got accurate advice. But I don't think he can go directly to the EEOC. I think he has to report it to someone first, because even the victim has to ask her company to take steps first. She can't, without having done that internal step, she can't go to the EEOC, I don't think, without having done that first. At least that's the way I read it.
I thought there was something I read in there where it was saying that, and I think like with the situation, it's because he is a supervisor on the same level as what her supervisor is. Like he knew that he could eventually probably become liable for the sexual harassment due to the fact that he knew, and it was trying to figure out how to put a stop to it.
Yeah. In the note from the Harvard Business Review thing, it says a victim of sexual harassment, if she wants to lodge a hostile environment claim under Title VII, she should first pursue corrective action with their employer.
Yeah.
So I think,
but I also, to me, I almost got that as a same level situation, where it's if somebody on your same level was harassing you, then you need to take it up. But I think in this situation where it's the boss, it's who'd you report your boss to? I mean, how many levels above do you got to try to find that person?
Yeah.
And especially with her fear of her husband.
Austin just sent an email saying, did we end up having a meeting? I don't see that a link has been sent out.
Tell him to check his Hangouts. Open up Hangouts and he'll see a message.
Okay. Hopefully he'll see that. Okay, I'm sorry, where were we?
I think we were talking about how it was because she's reporting a boss,
Mm-hmm.
the boss level, and also with how it was a supervisor overhearing the call and trying to be anonymous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't really think that, I mean, as a supervisor, he's required.
Yeah, he's required, and I think that's where it getting kicked up to the EEOC is where it comes in because it makes it to where somebody on his level, he cannot institute policy or procedures
Mm-hmm.
with him. I don't know if that made sense or he can't take any disciplinary action against his coworker.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Okay. So, well, I think the answer to the next question is kind of obvious because a lawyer is protecting the interests of the company, and they need, once a complaint has been made, then they need to investigate it, or the liability of the company, the risk to the company goes up. So they have to investigate it.
Okay. All right. How would you evaluate Jack DaCosta's opinion at this point? What do you think he should do? I think we've already. Well, I guess the thing is what should he be doing?
He should follow policy and report it to whoever he's supposed to report it to. Because as a supervisor, if he looks the other way, then
hey, Austin's here.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, guys.
That's all right. I think we're just glad that somebody else joined.
Yes.
So we are talking about what Jack should do about his options, whether he should report it or not. I say he has to report it.
Bear with me. I'm just getting set up. Apologize.
No, I do agree with what you're saying. Is that he does need to make sure he's following his company's policies and report it to the next person in the chain of command who's responsible for that. Whether it be their boss or the EEOC to come in.
Yeah.
And I was also kind of getting from the point at which this company is at, it may need to be the EEOC office or the EEO office because of the fact that they're already looking at cutting jobs. So
Yeah.
a sexual harassment case at this point in the company, and just even if she was already listed as somebody who may be cut, looks kind of fishy.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to cover it up and get rid of the person who's
Right.
not wanting to play along.
Yeah. You know what? It asks if they say she won't get fired because retaliation is illegal, ask what proof she has of harassment. But it doesn't really matter in terms of making the report whether she has proof or not. They just need to make the report and let the investigators work it out.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I was still typing. I heard what you were saying. I'm just trying to remember the words. All right, so you were saying, no, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like, I heard you, I recognized that it was good. What did you say again? It was something like, because she was to get fired, it's with the EEO, she wouldn't need the proof because during the investigation they would come up with it.
Well, I mean, she doesn't necessarily need the proof to make a complaint. The investigation is where they would either find the proof or they don't.
Okay.
So sorry, I know I came in late. Are we talking about doohickeys?
No.
The doohickey
No.
problem? Okay.
No.
It's okay.
So we can
Doohickey was actually a 6 o'clock was a 6 o'clock our time conversation.
I'm so sorry.
No, we'll touch on that.
I seriously I probably emailed the teacher because I'm like I work so late and you guys are on the East Coast and I'm in San Diego. So
I'm actually Pacific time. I'm in Vegas.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
We talked about earlier just moving the call to 7
Bumping it
p.m.
an hour.
Yeah, I saw that email.
Because I don't think it's working for people very well. So, I mean, it's not great doing a class this way.
I know. It's so hard. I feel so bad.
Well, it's not your guys' fault. I think it's just kind of the way the groups were set up.
Yeah.
So it's fine. It's, I would rather stay up a little bit later and have more people participate than do it earlier.
And it'd be a one-on-one conversation.
Right?
It's never awkward that way.
No, it's never awkward. Especially not when you're talking about sexual harassment. Okay.
You know what? I'm just glad this class had a week difference between what I was dealing with in sociology last week.
So we're actually talking about that Lone Star story that we had to read, where the guy overhears the secretary talking on the phone with somebody and complaining that she's being harassed at work.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But I think we've gotten through all of the questions that actually pertain to the story.
Almost. It's right now, like, the next question is, does anything prevent her boss from firing her for some other reason? Just with her having a sexual
harassment. They can document it.
Yeah, it must be well documented reasons.
Yeah.
This next one, does filing a harassment claim prevent her from ever being fired? No.
No.
No, it's if you just stop showing up, you're gone.
Yeah.
Or have your performance really drop, like start walking around with the I'm invincible complex.
Yeah, I mean, you still have to do your job, more or less. But I also think that once the investigation opens up, until that investigation is concluded, then it would be wise not to take any employment action.
Yeah, I think I think if they were still going through and downsizing the company and laid her off where it was showing that previously she was already kind of on a list, and if she needs to, they have no problem bringing her back in. But just keeping her around because she has the case isn't, at least to me, isn't a justifiable reason for keeping her on payroll. If she was already set for a layoff, if her department, her position, if her job slot was going to be laid off, then that's where she would fall in.
I think if they were doing mass layoffs, you're absolutely correct. I think if it was something that was unique to just that one person, then they should think twice before they do it.
Yeah, and that's one reason why he was. I think it was DaCosta is the guy who overheard it. Was saying that they were getting set up to do mass layoffs, so he didn't, to just try to help smooth the issue right then and there, transfer her, approve that transfer that she was trying to get done. But he couldn't say that at the time because it wasn't too widely known around the company that they were getting ready to do the mass layoffs.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, ethics. This is always a fun one to get into. Does DaCosta owe any ethical duty to other possible victims of the perpetrator?
Well, I mean, if he owes an ethical duty to the one he knows is being harassed, then why wouldn't he owe one to other people that may be harassed?
That's kind of what I was getting at. I'm like, he does have that duty to stop it, because it is a major issue if a company gets popped with a sexual harassment case, especially if they go through and I mean, heck, look at the news just recently. That one producer,
Weinstein. Yeah.
I mean, now it's how many board members
Well, and actresses
are going through.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the actresses, and now it's board members are being gone after for covering it up.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is almost exactly what this is right here.
I know, it's almost better just to stop it as soon as you can rather than let it unravel and be a huge thing. Especially if it's like a publicly owned company too.
There's a lot of reputational risk involved now, for especially that company in particular, because it's so, well, I guess in certain circles, it's a big deal. So,
and especially with, I think it's saying it's a defense contractor and holding a government contract. That's that's a big moneymaker. That will make or break a lot of companies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Does he owe Julia an ethical duty if she feels unable to stick up for herself? What do you think, Austin?
I don't know. Like, is it really his place? You know, like that's my first question. Is like, does he feel would he feel so I'm putting my shoes, right? So I'm gaining empathy. Like, I just don't know if it would be my place. If she's not able to do it, then why would I? You know what I mean? I don't know. That's kind of where I stand. I think morally I would want to, but ethically I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, the problem is that he's a manager. And as a manager of the company, you're pretty much automatically obligated to follow up on it, because if you don't, then it may be considered, because as a manager, he's representing the company, and so if a manager in that capacity doesn't do anything about it, then you're putting even more liability on the company because he knew about it and he hasn't taken any action.
I agree with that point. I'm like, to me, the ethical thing to do is well, actually, it's kind of one of those, with just some of the classes that I've taken and whatnot. It's more of you need to protect the company.
He needs to protect the company, but all he has to do is report it and let the experts take it from there.
Yeah, and it's by the reporting of it, it allows, number one, him to CYA himself. I mean, this way, this way he can go, I did my part, I'm done. And like you were saying, Austin, I feel sympathetic to your situation where you don't want this to get out because you know your husband is going to come down and deal with the situation himself, MMA style. I mean,
which is also dealt with it MMA style against her.
I thought I was reading it like he was going to come down and beat the
That's
boss.
How I was reading it. That's how I was reading it too, until I read the discussion leader questions.
Oh, I glanced over those and I was looking for the questions and not so much that part.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Does he owe any duty to the company Leaving his ethical obligations aside, would it be wise to do nothing considering the lawyer's warning about what might happen in a court case if he had to testify that he heard the conversation and then do nothing?
No, he has to. He has to report it.
That's kind of where my train of thought was going to is
He shouldn't have even gone back to Julia and said, "Hey, this is what I did. This is what they said I should do." I mean, he shouldn't have even
gone that far.
Yeah, he should have just hung up with the attorney and called the other number and left it at that and let them deal with it.
Because I mean, it's even the way that he ended the conversation with the attorney made it to the point where the attorney's like, "Yeah, this guy's not going to follow through with our instructions."
Yeah.
And, I mean, I kind of get where he was at with that is, especially if he sees her continually, just even walking back and forth, it's like, this is really annoying knowing I have this secret about you, that I'm about to turn your world upside down and cause you a whole bunch of issues. I just want to be honest about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he should have just kept his mouth shut to Julia and called the EEOC. What do you think, Austin?
If you listen, you.
Okay. All right, we're not going to role play the discussion. We don't have enough personnel involved for us to get into a role playing conversation.
No, please no.
And some of us need to go to bed.
Yes, we do.
All right, for this one.
Oh, that's weird. I was talking this whole time and you guys couldn't hear me.
Nope, no. You went through and muted your mic.
Oh my gosh. Awesome. All right. Well,
so what did you say?
I just was agreeing. I was agreeing with you guys in short.
Do you have a webcam?
I do, but I'm moving. Like, I got home and I'm trying to like pick up my house and put my daughter to bed. So I turned it off. So you guys don't get distracted.
All right. No, it's because usually then we can at least see a mouth moving, but no noise. So
that makes sense. That makes sense.
No, there was one time where I did one of these classes on my phone while I was at work. So that was a fun one.
Yeah, seriously, I got home and then I got straight to daddy duty, and I'm like, I gotta make this call. I haven't missed it. I've missed it week after week. So I thought I would shut off my cam, but anyways,
okay.
I digress.
Okay. I was going to say for number 8, it's asking for students who still think DaCosta should report to the EEO office. Ask them to tell specifically what you report. Y'all just want to email me that, and then I'll compile it into a generalized form.
Sure.
Like just a couple. I don't know. Or do you want to?
Well, I think it's fairly simple. I mean, he just reports what he overheard and who was talking and leaves it at that. Because it's not his job to make inferences about what was going on. It's just his job to report what he heard and who said it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Just a second. I have to yell at my son to pull dinner out of the oven real quick. Oh my gosh. I told him to pull the dinner out of the oven in 20 minutes, and that was about 40 minutes ago.
Oh,
He's like, but it still had white parts. It has sour cream. It's going to have white parts. Hopefully it's still good. If not, I guess we're going to Taco Bell after this. And push over what he heard. Okay. So here we go. Let me go down and all. All right. So for the wrap up, what actually happened in the case? When Jack called the corporate counsel, he forgot about caller ID. The lawyer used the information he gave her to figure out the people he was talking about. She contacted the Lone Star EEO, which launched a formal investigation. The EEO tried hard to get Martinez to cooperate. French denied all charges, claiming that Martinez had just made up her story to protect herself from pending layoffs. DaCosta was asked for evidence, but he didn't give any. Martinez's husband found out about what was going on and beat up Julia and forced her to quit. Okay, I guess I skipped that one little in comma thing. French survived the investigation with only a bruised reputation. He blamed everything on DaCosta for calling corporate counsel. There was so much animosity between DaCosta and French that DaCosta left the company after 3 months. Okay. What was Lone Star's sexual harassment policy? If they had one, did Jack know anything about it? What policies or procedures or training would have improved the situation for Jack? For the situation Jack found him in, and would the policies you created as a group have been helpful to Jack? Could clear policies and procedures have helped avoid the final consequences of the case?
Apparently, if Lone Star had a policy, it wasn't widely publicized, and people were not trained on it. Because as a manager, Jack should have known what to do right off the top without having to go to the corporate counsel to ask for their advice. My company, we have we have to go online and go through our learning portal and spend 45 minutes, getting training on sexual harassment. So, and that's for every employee. That's not just for managers.
That's pretty thorough.
Well, we're a Fortune 15 company with give or take 20,000 employees. So we have to have it done.
Yeah, I get that.
So, if this company had a policy, obviously people didn't know about it.
Yeah. Go on. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Go.
So, I've worked for 2 companies, and both pretty similar sizes, about 50 employees, about around $10 to $12 million a year. So nothing super crazy. But I will tell you that we definitely don't have anything like that. The sexual harassment is like what you're given at the beginning of your employment in the big employment binder that goes over like dress code, behavior, like PTO, attendance, all this stuff. And then in there, sexual harassment, and of course they don't have you follow up. You just sign at the bottom of each one, right? So they're not liable. And so going to this question, kind of agreeing with you, if they had one, which I'm sure by law they had to have had one, it wasn't something that they didn't follow through or follow up on, which I think will bite them in the butt right now. However, having said that, I almost feel like anything to do with as serious as sexual harassment is kind of common sense, personally. So that's kind of, I don't know, that's whether he knew it or not, I don't know. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But I almost feel like the common sense thing to do is to let your superiors know as a manager.
Well, I think it's something that's so publicized now that it's on. You have to live under a rock for it not to be on the radar.
Right.
On some level, you know, you're always aware of specifically what your company's procedure is. I mean, we have a hotline that we're supposed to call that goes into corporate security, I believe. The complaint and then initiate the investigation. So just everyone's aware of it. I think they don't always know the details and the ins and outs, I guess. What their company policy is. But as a manager, he should have known.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I know it's even working with the post office. We have the sexual harassment policy as one page. And it's basically if you're being harassed by anybody, you go to your supervisor. If you're being harassed by a supervisor, you call the OIG, Office of Inspector General.
Oh, wow.
And they take it from there.
So there's a pretty clear line of authority there.
Every post office is set up with catwalks with one-way glass and listening ports. So that way they can just go in before the day even starts and are sitting up in there watching what everybody is doing.
Oh,
you can hear everything.
Crazy.
Nice. Never mind, I lost my train of thought.
I hate when that happens.
It is almost 11 o'clock out here.
I'm trying to.
5:30.
All right. Just for the last 3 questions on how well I can pat myself on my back for this, okay? What is the most important thing y'all have learned from this case? See something, say something.
Oh yeah. I'll just go real quick. I just think even though it's not easily displayed whether or no the manager knew the sexual harassment rules or expectations as a manager. What I took away is, especially in business and ethically, if you know something's not right and you know the right action to take it, or else, silence or waiting can do a lot more harm than good.
Yeah. I don't really know what's the most important thing I learned. I'm not sure I learned anything necessarily from the case so much as in reading the notes on the law of sexual harassment. I think I learned a lot more about the ins and outs of it and what is harassment and what isn't, and the different ways that companies are liable for it. And in risk management, that's something obviously that I need to know. Sheet with all the EEOC companies. It's better to know what I'm talking about.
Okay. But honestly, I'm pretty much right along there with you guys. you know what, if you see something that's wrong and don't say something, then it's on you, especially if you're a supervisor. And I mean, understanding how many different ways a company can get themselves in trouble really makes me want to go back and question a lot of my supervisors now. That could be fun when I go back to work.
Yep.
All right. How is my overall quality for the discussion today? On a scale of 0 to 10.
I think it was a solid 7, maybe
7?
8.
Okay, I can live with that.
Maybe an 8.
An 8? All right.
Since I was here for like 2 seconds. 8.
You'll just go with...
I go on with 8, 8, 9.
Okay. All right. As a discussion leader, what did you like?
You followed the rules pretty well.
Your children giggling.
Oh, so that's my daughter.
Mine aren't that little anymore, so it's cute. Anyway, I like that you tried to engage both of us actively instead of just having one of us talk all the time. Even though I talk a lot.
Okay, your mic cut out for like half of that sentence.
I liked that you tried to engage both of us in the conversation and not just having one of us talk all the time.
All right, since I did such an awesome job and I don't need to improve anything, we'll just skip the next question.
Great.
I don't even think it's anything that the discussion leader necessarily can do. It's just
I think
we just need more participation.
I think what it is I needed to make it more clear what time we were having the discussion, not okay, I think this is it. I should have been a leader before we logged on instead of.
It's hard to get things up and going.
Yeah, and I do think you're right. I think participation, of course, I'm no one really to talk, is key. Seriously, I've tried. So, long story short, we're at the busiest. We're at our Super Bowl time of the year for my business. So, been clocking long hours. So, anyways, I'm trying to come back. Unfortunately, our Super Bowl is right around the corner. So, anyways, with any lack of Google Hangouts, I'll be there for emails and definitely getting stuff done.
Okay. I'm going to stop the broadcast now since we're pretty much done with this. And we'll go talk about the Dohiki